I am Joyce Patricia Montelibano-Aquino. Thank you for viewing my research proposal. At the UP Open University, we have always been encouraged to pursue research that personally interests us. And one of my biggest concerns ever since I was, a child was disposing of waste properly. Because especially now, I am very, very conscious and aware of the big problem that we have in the world of solid waste management. And so I've always been wondering how I would dispose of my waste products, such as after I drank from this bottle. I mean, I know we're supposed to segregate and it goes to plastic, and I give it to our garbage collector and try to segregate. But after that, what happens to it? Or I've always been uncomfortable getting rid of my old dry cell batteries in the trash, but I don't know where else to put it. So, I mean, I've always thought that wasn't the best way of disposing something, batteries like these, right? But I never really got the information. Of course, later on, based on my research, there is a proper way of doing that, but we'll talk about that later. But in general, I never really knew how. For example, how to dispose of my cell phone that's probably conked out, doesn't work anymore, and also the battery inside when it's lived its lifespan. Okay, so I've always been concerned about proper waste disposal, and so this is what I want to pursue for my research at the UP Open University, where I'm taking my Master of Development Communication. So I decided that I will pursue this topic of solid waste management. I'm also very much concerned about the well-publicized world problem of how to minimize solid waste. It's a problem all over the world, and in the Philippines, for one, it also is a very big problem. And I particularly would like to cite a study or a book published by the Asian Development Bank. They were actually commissioned to do it, about garbage in the Philippines. It's actually called the Garbage Book. And it said that, this was published in 2004. It said that the garbage problem in Metro Manila alone is so bad that 30 years from the time it was published, that would be in 2034, Metro Manila will generate over 70 million tons of solid waste collection. And it will need a line of waste trucks traveling a distance of over 4,000 times around the earth and to the sun. And it'll cost the country 100 billion pesos. So that alone tells you how bad the situation is. The ADB book, the Garbage Book, does mention a glimmer of hope, which is a law that was passed in 2000, and it's called the Republic Act 9003, or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. So this is supposed to alleviate the big problem, and hopefully what the Garbage Book predicts will no longer happen with the implementation of RA 9003. So I became very, very interested in this law. And because it'll actually be the answer to our problem, right? Um, so I looked into it, and unfortunately, the two studies that I came across said that its implementation has been less than satisfactory, and it has done very little improvement with regard to our solid waste management. And these two studies that I'm referring to are by Atienza, and the second is by Acosta, Lau, Valdez. The first one by Atienza was written in 2011, and the second one in 2012. And both of these studies say that they pinpointed the delay in the implementation of the act. Okay? Atienza particularly cited that the implementation of the act is behind schedule. There are still a lot of open and controlled dump sites, and only few sanitary landfills, or SLFs, have been made as mandated in the act. Acosta and Company said that the number of individual or shared facilities like sanitary landfills and materials recovery facilities, or MRFs, are relatively small vis-a-vis 1,600 cities and municipalities in the Philippines. Only about 8,800 of 42,000 barangays have access to 7,700 material recovery facilities. Okay, so the creation of these facilities are basically the responsibility of the government. So these two studies have cited the the lack or the failure of government to provide what is mandated in the law. Okay, so given that situation, I now was more interested in the public's participation in this whole campaign of managing our solid waste. Okay, so because no law will work without the public's cooperation. So since I'm not in government, I can't do anything about that. I decided to look more into whether the public was doing their share in implementing this Republic Act 9003. Okay, and so this is the basis of my study. Okay, my research problem, to state my research problem, I am proposing, the research I am proposing would like to ask the question, is the public aware of RA 9003, and are they complying with its stipulations? Okay. This study would then want to go further and ask, if not, what development communication can be implemented so that they will be aware and comply. So this is something I can pursue, being part of the public, okay, private citizen, and I would like to get more research on this. Okay, so my proposal is to use as my theoretical framework the diffusion of innovations theory of Everett Rogers. Okay, this has been the main reference in the field discussing diffusion. And when I mean diffusion, what it means what diffusion means is the dissemination of certain communication about innovations. And innovations are things that are basically new to a society or to a group of people. Okay, this theory has been very well regarded, and it's on its fifth edition. The first being published in 1962, the second in 1971, the third in 1983, the fourth in 1995, and the fifth in 2003. So it has been updated. I feel that this is the best theory to follow because let me state what it is. Okay, um, Rogers says that diffusion is the process by which an innovation is communicated through certain channels over time among the members of a social system. So with regard my problem, which is to determine if the public, the Philippine public, is aware of RA 9003 and whether they're complying with it, is related to this theory, because the innovation here is this new law, relatively new law, which was created in 2000. And so that is the innovation. And now, I would like to know if the public is aware of this innovation, and how will they be aware but through communication that was given to them, okay, or that was sent to them about this innovation, which is the Republic Act. So it also involves a certain social system, and of course, what is this social system? So it is Philippine society as a whole, but I cannot of course study the whole of Philippine society. So I am going to use as my sampling group one of the communities here in Metro Manila. Okay, and I have selected, well, my community where I live. This is the Veraville Townhomes, Montreal 1, at BF International, Las Piñas City. This community has 182 townhouses, and with an average of 3 people per unit or per townhouse. And I think that this is a good sampling to give me an idea of how the public is receiving and abiding by Republic Act 9003, if ever. Okay. So I've identified the 4 elements in the theoretical framework of diffusion of innovations. So that would be innovation, communication channels, time, and the social system. Okay? As I mentioned, the innovation will be RA 9003, or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. And then the communication channels would be whatever communication channels the government used to promote this act. By the way, the institution or the department tasked or mandated to carry out and implement RA 9003 is the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR. Okay, the time aspect is from the time the law was created in 2000 until present day, which is 2017. And the social system, as I mentioned to you, is a sampling of Philippine society, of communities in Philippine society, and this would be the Veraville Townhomes. Rogers defines the social system as interrelated units engaged in joint problem solving to accomplish a goal. And this community is definitely made up of units or family units that have to work with each other in order to solve its problems. One being waste management. As I mentioned, um, the main objective of this study is to find out, one, is there awareness among the public of RA 9003? And two, is the public complying with this act or this law? Okay. Um, this study would like to go further, that after we determine that, um, this study would like to make recommendations depending on the answers to those two objectives. And the hypothesis is that the answer would be, or the results would show, or the data would show, that it is negative for both awareness and compliance. Okay, this researcher believes that, because I'm speaking for myself, okay, but of course I cannot use myself and generalize. That's the reason for this study, so that I have something scientific to back up what I think, what I believe. So what I believe, because judging from my own experience, the government did not promote this bill properly, and the information did not trickle down to the masses or to the public. So we will find out that the public is not aware, or at least in this sampling group, they're not aware, and because there is no awareness, they also do not comply with the stipulations of this law. Okay, so my study would then want to recommend what sort of communication can be given to, and this is development communication, what sort of development communication can be given to the public so that they will gain awareness and then practice compliance with regard to the stipulations of RA 9003. And then I would also like to test this communication material that I will recommend. So I will do it. I will give it to the sampling group, and then I will issue administer another way of checking how they receive this new communication. Okay. With that, let me go into my methodology. Okay. My main what do you call it? Research instrument is the self-administered questionnaire. And I will be distributing this to all 182 units of the Veryville townhomes. And through the questions and their answers, we will determine awareness towards RA 9003, and also whether they comply with stipulations. And then, as I mentioned, I will make my recommendation, well, if my hypothesis is correct, that it is both negative towards the two variables, then I will make a recommendation for new communication material. And then I will give this to the residents, or to my sampling group. And then after that, maybe after a month, I will again administer the same questionnaire. But this time, the situation would be different because they would have received the new communication. And so I want to see if that communication was effective. If it made them aware of the law, and if they followed it. as a result of awareness. And then based on that, on the results of that second questionnaire, of course, I will come up with an analysis and again come up with my final recommendation. So that's what I plan to do for my research study, and I hope that it is satisfactory. Thank you very much for listening.